Hello, everybody. Not sure how many people are on this cozy snow and Arctic cold day that we are enjoying in the United States, all kinds of different across the country. We have most of our quorum here. Kevin was able to join us. I really appreciate that in Dallas, where apparently schools are closed. And as well, we have Morgan from Colorado, and hopefully Philippe will be able to join. Maybe he's running kids around to school as well. He's in Texas, so. But we're going to go ahead and get some things, recorded, get some discussions going so that we can all learn from each other. We did a practice brief on this a couple weeks back, and I learned more in that that 30, 45 minutes than I thought I would walk away with. So I'm hoping we can bring in a lot of things to light based on a lot of cool, creative ideas from some innovators in the industry. So very quickly, my name is Tim McLaughlin, CEO of GoTab. I'm also used to own two breweries, but now my wife owns two breweries. We used to co-own them, and she's now 100% in the industry, and I'm 100% living with the industry. And so I work at GoTab and get to work with wonderful people like Kevin and Morgan and Philippe. And today we'll be walking through some of the different things that we've all learned in our experience in hospitality using all kinds of different technologies and solutions. With that, I'm going to pop the deck up, and then we can go ahead and do some quick intros. Let me see if is that coming through just fine?
Yeah.
Everybody, cool. So with that, we'll go ahead and maybe do some introductions. Kevin, would you mind giving your background?
Yeah, thanks for having me today. Kevin Carr, Community Beer Company. Been in business for myself a long time, over 30 years. I started young. This is my fifth business that I've owned. Arguably the most interesting business. Previous to this, it's a wide range of, financial services to internet technologies. One of my first businesses was building websites in this new world called the internet that most businesses didn't understand what that was. That's how long ago it was. And that kind of activity and understanding of internet technologies led me into starting a company that provided internet-based technologies to the legal industry, particularly the litigation industry. So that kept me busy for about 13 years. And then about 2009, I just, if there's any lawyers out there, no offense intended, but I got sick of working with lawyers for a living, at least in that capacity as litigators. And there was some shakeup and changes in the industry. So I was home brewing for, many years, 10, 15 years on the side. And we had offices in Denver, and I would, in other parts of the country, Chicago, New York, DC, but especially my West Coast trips really made me fall in love with the burgeoning craft beer scene. And nothing was really happening here in Texas and North Texas, at least at that scale. So started doing research on what it would take to open a brewery, looking for a reason not to do it. Didn't find one, and here we are. So it's been quite a ride, and we're about to celebrate 11 years as Community Beer Company.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. Morgan, thanks for joining us, Philippe. I'll let you introduce yourself after Morgan.
Yeah, howdy. Morgan O'Sullivan with FlyteCo Brewing, one of the co-founders and current COO. Previous to Beer Life, I had several sales careers, whether it was in the automotive industry, oil and gas, and then telecom for Verizon for a number of years. We were brewing beer in the backyard here in Denver, like many people, and everybody liked the beer, and we were crazy enough to listen to them and chase that dream. So we opened our first location here in Denver in March of 2019, FlyteCo Brewing. Both my business partners are pilots in general aviation, and 10% of our profits go to the future of aviation through local and national scholarship funds. After surviving COVID, which I'm sure we all have some very interesting stories about how we did that, decided to open our second location, and we're fortunate enough to have the opportunity to occupy the former Stapleton International Airport, specifically the air traffic control tower, which is attached to our building. So very on-brand opportunity, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing for us. So moved from operating a single location that was a 5,000 square foot neighborhood tap room to now maintaining that location and operating in a 6,000 square foot 3-story entertainment complex, complete with 3 full bars, a full kitchen, miniature golf, bowling, darts, a full arcade, axe throwing, sport and golf simulators, ping pong. There's not a lot, I guess, that we don't do from the entertainment aspect at our new location. That one opened in August of 22. And yeah, we're cruising along and excited to be here and learn a little bit about what's going on in the industry.
Surprised you don't have a swimming pool yet, but maybe you can put that in later.
There's always time.
Yeah, of course. Philippe, thanks for joining us on this chaotic winter day. You mind giving a quick background on yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. So my journey started in fine dining. I have over 20 years experience in the food and beverage industry. I'm fairly new to the beer scene, brewery scene, but I started my career in Europe working in Michelin-star restaurant in southern France, made my way to the US, trained under some well-renowned chefs in the US and Canada as well, and started my journey in corporate America. So I've been running lots of location, lots of scratch kitchen, high volume. Been the to-go guy to go help train a new executive chef anywhere in the country. You name it, I've opened restaurants, a lot of stuff. Then I went to more of a fine dining steakhouse platform for a while. And then ended up in the German-inspired Disney World of beer in Altstadt, and and been there for about 2 years, and I think I'm hooked on the beer scene. It's a different lens of hospitality that we lived in the gastropub beer making and plus restaurant industry, but I love every bit of it.
Cool. Thank you. I have to say, it's amazing to have you guys all on the same presentation. You all have gorgeous facilities and very unique facilities too. Love to just do some quick overview on just so people understand what these places look like. And it's hard to capture like these different ones, just scale. I know the scale of all of your buildings is amazing. And I've been to Community Beer. It's beautiful outside, and it's hard to really grasp from the photos. But Kevin, I know you built this ground up, right?
Sort of. They were 3 old existing buildings that we rehabbed. We raised the roof on one of them from 25 feet to 40 feet to accommodate tank expansion. We did a new build, which the upper left-hand corner is in the, well, really all the interior spaces is the new build that connects the buildings together. In total, 70,000 square feet. And then on top of that, a 15,000 square feet of patio in beer garden. And yeah, we host a lot of events. We're constantly doing things to drive traffic, private events, you name it, we've done it. So the goal is to create an entertainment venue to a certain extent, but really a destination for all things beer. And we're into the spirits business and some other things, and have a restaurant. So really just building a reputation to be a destination here in North Texas and beyond.
It's a cool place. Just very quickly on another unique, really, I'm sure there will never be another one of these. Morgan's Place in Colorado. I mean, take a look at the upper left there if you've never ever seen an actual flight tower. Morgan, you want to quickly tell us how? I mean, you mentioned this already, but just to
the old Stapleton Airport was open from 1929 to 1995 when they closed that down and moved operations to Denver International. And then over the period of the next 20 years, they infilled the old airport grounds with a suburban neighborhood. So our building is one of the last remaining original buildings of the actual airport concourse, and happens to feature the 164-foot air traffic control tower attached to the northeast corner of the building. So being aviation themed, it was quite an opportunity for us to move into a building like this with our background already being set in aviation. It's been a challenge learning the ins and outs of an old building like that. But we were fortunate. The build out was taken care of by Punch Bowl Social. They got the property back in about 2015, completed a full restaurant build out, renovation, rehab in partnership with the city here. And then unfortunately went bankrupt due to COVID and lost this location, and we were able to scoop it up at the end of 2021. So we walked into a fully built out restaurant that we definitely put our own touches on, both in decoration and paint scheme and furniture and that type of thing. And then we added the third floor this past summer, which includes those golf and sports simulators, axe throwing, and another bar and private event space. But yeah, the building itself is just incredibly unique and steeped in history.
It is, yeah. And of course, then we have yet more history. Philippe, I don't know, I don't actually know the history of this place, but it's not your average brewery.
That's correct. Well, it's been built from the ground up, and on 290, Highway 290 in Texas is the second location after Napa Valley for winery and breweries. So it's been built right here in the Hill Country, so there's a lot of tourism. It's been built from scratch. The theme here is Germany, German descent. Fredericksburg is, German town. A lot of immigrants that came in over the past centuries. But it's been built in 2016. Father and son wanted to make beer together, and they've built it a little too big for two guys to handle it. And but they've imported everything from Germany, every single part in the buildings from Germany on the brewing side, all the way to the hops and everything. The only thing we don't import is the water that we use. That would be very expensive and inconvenient to import the water, but we filter it on site. In 2016, they started to release some beers. Late 2018, they opened the actual restaurant side. That's when they decided not to be their own private country club, and they wanted full open to the public. And ups and downs, obviously figuring out what works in this area. We're in the Hill Country, so we're not in the major cities, so you have to adjust to that. And then since 2001, this place has been blowing up. The reason why I say it's the Disney World of beers is because you feel like you need a map to where should I go now. We have a little bit over 50,000 square feet of space, 3 levels. We have a beer garden. We have a grand hall that mimics Munich Oktoberfest. It's Oktoberfest all year long with us. Also, we have a restaurant on the other end. We have a long patio, and we have a speakeasy bar downstairs. So it's kind of operating multi-restaurant in one. We do anything from to-go food all the way to full-blown weddings. We organize Oktoberfest in the area. We do many things, but it's incredibly versatile. And what we do that nobody does around us is our kitchen is the core on the food and beverage side, because everybody knows our beer. That's how we get some people in the door as well. We have a fully blown scratch kitchen. So I have a baker, I have a butcher. So we're very serious about those things. We do things in-house. So yeah, that's a little bit about Altstadt.
Sounds like Germany. In fact, your beer hall looks exactly like a beer hall I've been in Munich. So,
well, they've imported a lot of the materials from Germany too, and I think they've mimicked some sort of a castle from Germany as well. So yeah,
I can see the Disney World, analogy. So just going on to some questions. Thank you all for the overview. And just to be clear, for those who are watching, GoTab doesn't only work with big, beautiful, impressive, stellar places. We have lots of small places too. But we wanted to bring to you some of the most innovative operators in this presentation. So, but we do want to talk about service models. You all have, in some sense, sometimes you have multiple restaurants in one. We see GoTab we have actually fine dining full service restaurants. We have hybrid service, which is basically a combination of staff plus QR or a kiosk. And then we have self-service where we have people using RFID cards and QRs and kiosks. If you don't mind, let's just real quickly kind of ratchet down, like where do you, Kevin, what's your preferred model, or what would you say some of the models you use typically?
For on the service side?
Yeah.
Well, this is our second location. We were where the Dallas Mavericks currently headquartered until Mark Cuban bought the building and summarily kicked us out. But we didn't have a restaurant then. So we knew when we came into this space, given the size, given the traffic that we were, experiencing before, we had hoped that that would translate into traffic, the same kind of traffic or more to our new facility. By the time we were ready to get going with taproom and restaurant, our biggest concern was, trying to have a traditional wait staff model. And, when we have, 3, 4, 5 different spaces in play at any given, weekend or Saturday, to try to find and recruit and keep wait staff, which typically traditionally is very high turnover, and still provide a high level of guest experience, was something that I decided early on that we should try another approach. And because of, really in part due to COVID, people were really used to using QR codes. So when I, was building this model, for me, it was imperative that we had a POS system that would facilitate QR code ordering at the table. And so where we morphed it to be is, particularly on the backs of GoTab, is when a guest walks in, especially those who've never been to the facility before, it is a big space. And so we try to do a really good job of greeting people. There's not a host stand, so to speak, but we greet people, and we invite them in and tell them, there's 2 ways to order. You can come to the counter and order, and your beer will be given to you immediately. Your cocktails will be served down, at the end of the bar. We'll give you a buzzer and for your food to come get it. Or you can pick any table, order on the QR code, and we'll bring the food directly to you. And that model has worked really, really well for us. So it's a blended model where we've got those 2 things in play in terms of ordering, while all of our staff, we don't traditionally have, this group of people, this team, your bartenders, you guys are food runners. It's a blended staff where everyone does, what they need to do to make sure the guest experience is as good as possible, so that you may be greeting people at the door. You are taking orders at the counter. You are running food from the kitchen. People have ordered from their table, doing table touches. And it's worked really well for us. In fact, we're seeing about 60% of our ordering is happening on the GoTab QR platform, which is really great. It's really efficient for us. And, our goal is it's a game to us to see how quickly we can get someone's food or drink to their table. And people are just shocked. We hear all the time people say, man, I just ordered this like 2 minutes ago and here's my beer. So we're really having a good time and really being able to focus on the guest experience instead of chasing staff turnover.
Yeah, it makes sense. Morgan, Philippe, you guys want to add? I know you have different models in different places.
Yeah, ours is fairly similar to yours, Kevin. It's funny the way that what you just described is if I were to do it all over again and build a place from the ground up, I would do it that way, because I've had sensed that there would be less friction with a QR ordering system if the alternative was to walk up and order at the counter, because that's what people know and are used to. We do a hybrid where there's no order counter physically. Our building, just the way that it's constructed, that doesn't lend itself, being 3 stories tall, to be able to have a singular order counter. And so we ended up going the route of QRs at the tables, and then a wait staff assisting guests that don't want to use them with traditional table service. It all comes down to an effective greet. We do have a host stand that we staff very consistently. And the explanation of how to get what you want in our building becomes absolutely vital for first-time guests. The repeat customers get to know the system, and they really enjoy it because they can sit anywhere they want in the building and summon food and drink to their location without really having to do anything. And it kind of feels like they have insider information and the cheat code to get what they want quickly. With that hybrid model, you totally nailed it. The speed and efficiency of service, as well as the consistency, is really the name of the game. If somebody's doing the transactional heavy lifting, you have to over deliver on how fast that stuff comes out and how consistent the quality is, because there is not a member of your wait staff there to smooth anything over if things go awry. People's patience for how fast things come out and using the system in general is shortened quite a bit when they are in charge of placing their own orders. And so that speed is really one of the only ways to combat that and stay ahead of it. So, on any given day, we'll have a minimal wait staff compared to how many we would have if we had to do full traditional table service. I'd say we're right around the same amount, 60% or so of our day-to-day customers are using GoTab, scanning the QR code. Also, with the number of activities that we have in our building, it is very often that folks will start in one place and end up in another. And so the ability to carry their tab with them on all 3 floors and then confirm their delivery location should they move to a new table has been wonderful. If somebody is technologically not inclined and does not want to use their phone for whatever reason, we do have paper menus available upon request and can go take orders tableside with the little handhelds. And it's a fine line to walk between encouraging your staff to not help people and instead teaching them how to teach the guest how to use the system appropriately so that they actually get what they want in a more efficient manner. And then our patio outside during the summer months, we have signage up on the tables and the patio itself, as well as verbal indicators from the wait staff that we do not take orders on the patio. That is QR code service only. Just the nature of patios, it could go from 10 people out there to 150 people out there in the matter of 20 to 30 minutes. And it's nearly impossible to staff appropriately to handle that volume on the patio at the whim of the weather. So that seems to work pretty well. Again, it just comes down to effective greet and really clear signage and very clear, empathetic communication about how folks get what they want while they're in our restaurant.
So sorry, Tim. So in Altstadt, yeah, you touched a lot of points that we have in common. The $1 million question about how to take care of our guests. Due to our location that's in the hill country, we're between 2 major cities, San Antonio and Austin, and we're about an hour each way. So we have a lot of locals. They would rather classical service. So we have our dining room set up as such. We have the tap room set up for quick in and out limited menu because usually our guests are a stop on the highway and they'll go to other breweries or wineries. So we have to adjust for that. And then we have our grand hall or beer garden as well. Usually they come there and they camp and have a party, especially in the grand hall with the music. So when it comes to the grand hall for us, it's going to be QR code full menu because we go from 0 to 60 in this area. It's so touristic. Tourism's probably 60-70% of our business. So we can get buses pulling over and, you have one ticket on the screen. All of a sudden, I got 10 pages. So what we have to do is when we have those, we have to be able to flex that muscle. That's why we use our grand hall. And in Texas, we have very good day very often. So beer garden is usable most of the year. So that's our flex muscle because we can't staff 50 servers and then, cut everybody and run it on 5, So we use GoTab to our advantage that way. Also, when we fill up pretty rapidly our dining room, we go on the wait. And if the grand hall is not very busy, it's kind of our overflow. It's self-feeding. It's, communal tables. It's ordered by the QR. Now, you touch a good point. There are some gentlemen technology is not their forte. So we do have servers owning several rows of tables, and they have to read the guests to see if they look like they're lost or not. So they go and approach, they follow some step of service. We follow a different length of hospitality when it comes to QR code, but we still have a servers in that particular room. And to make it even better for our guest experience, we divide each room as an independent restaurant. I even have different expo screen in my kitchen so I know where I'm going. So I don't have too many pages deep, so it's very easy to view. And each manager just stays in their zone. So we have a leader, a hospitality manager that will be present to control each zone that we call, different restaurant, different zones. So that's kind of a little bit of how it works for us.
Cool. Well, I mean, just so you all know, I mean, you all have a lot of space, but we actually have a lot of people even delivering beers at the host stand. So if you have a brewery that has limited seats, right, and you're waiting for a seat, there's no reason you can't order or open a tab at the host stand, deliver a drink while they're waiting, because hey, might as well book the revenue, and they're going to be happier than just standing there. So that's one of the really nice things, is just like, how do you get the guests something quickly? And I do think speed is a really important factor. We've seen that time and time. People get so happy. Especially, I was thinking, Morgan, I'm sure you get a ton of young families who want to stay on the periphery because their kids are screaming and running around or whatever, and they want to go park in the corner and just have stuff come to them, so they don't have to deal with the chaos of their kid,
Yeah, we actually implemented our arcade waiting room right next to the front, and so that's kind of how that's set up, where there's a walk-up area at the bar right next to the arcade, and so if we're full inside and folks want to wait for a table, they can get on the wait list and then go hang out and play video games in the arcade, keep the kids occupied, and continue to order directly from the bar there. The eventual version of that is going to be some smaller tables in the arcade area with access to a limited menu of things that fit on those small tables, again, just to keep the people on the wait list engaged. And so it's like, if you can get chicken nuggets and french fries for your kids while they're playing arcades and a beer for yourself, now that 45-minute wait for a table doesn't feel like anything, because you got what you needed in the meantime.
Yeah, I mean, if your kids are happy, parents are happy in general.
For those watching today that haven't opened a spot yet or are considering a ground up build, I can't emphasize enough. I've dreamed, Kevin, about doing it over again the way that you described, with GoTab at the tables as the cheat code for folks that have been there before, and then walk up counter service, which all comes down to the physical constraints, right, of the property itself. You have to have that singular bar or ordering area that's visible from everywhere. But the idea of folks know counter service, and folks can figure out eventually the QR service. The most friction that we run into is the confusion between QR ordering or table ordering, and people's unwillingness at times to understand the advantages of starting their own tab and carrying it through the entire experience. And so we're consistently trying to educate our staff and our guests on the advantages of that system. But it's an uphill battle, and with turnover and with new guests coming in the building all the time, you make headway, but not as much as you would like. And to have a spot where it's like, if you walk in, you know nothing about QRs, you hate technology, you walk up to the counter and order. You've done that 1,000 times before. You'll do it 1,000 times again. Right. It seems like the dream of combination of counter service or summon things to your table via QR code.
Yeah, we see more and more bars do what's called Easy Tab, where there's not even a QR, and if you want a QR, but they'll open the tab at the counter, text it to the guest, and then the guest just adds to their order, so they don't have to fight their way back to the counter. So it's like popular in concert venues, in places where you aren't even necessarily going to a table. But again, the QRs, to some people, it's like a religious thing. It points, it's like, have none of that, and it's like, oh, then you can wait in line or wait for a server. I don't know what to tell you.
Whatever you can do to minimize the friction when they start their tab, right? So Easy Tab, which we do a lot of that at the bar as well, where they'll walk up and order from the bar, and then we process it just like a normal order at a bar. And then at the end of the transaction, it's, hey, what's your phone number? I'll text you a link to your tab, and if you want to add more. And then our system is set up to where if they go to add to their tab, it's going to force them to confirm where they are in the restaurant by scanning a QR code, so that we know where to deliver that product. And that experience has been very positive. because again, it's reducing the friction at the entry. They don't know how our system works, and frankly, they don't care. They want a beer, they want a burger. They don't want to figure out how to order it, and so that's been very helpful.
Agreed. Cool. Let's talk a little bit about food. I mean, not all breweries do, probably actually I know the level of food that you're doing, at least, Philippe. I'd love to hear sort of like running a big kitchen like this that's focused on quality. I don't know if you might tell us a little bit about how you do that. And I think if anybody attended CBC last year, they were talking about how all breweries are going to have to become restaurants of a sort. Just having good beer is not sufficient anymore. And I think depending on your region and what the shift is, I think we all feel that, right? It's entertainment, it's food, it's drink, it's all the above. I don't know if you mind giving us a little background on how you are running your kitchens there, Philippe. It sounds like you have some interesting operations.
So you mentioned equality is something people are seeking, value. So sure, many of you have been to a very large chain restaurant when you have a Bible of a menu. My philosophy is, make sure you have fewer items, but you control everything and you execute them greatly at a higher level versus have too many items on the menu and they're all mediocre at best and most likely frozen. So our take was to have a very limited menu, small. We have 24 items on the menu, and that's including desserts, appetizer, and entrees. And really do everything in-house and just be smart about production. So I do have a full-time baker. My baker will do pretzel by hand. He'll twist them by hand. Yeah, I'll do 1,000 some a week. He'll do the burger buns. We do brioche buns. You can see on the picture, we have a bakery. He does those bad boys, the crostini, so we do our own baguettes. So we'll use our baguettes to do the toast points on our bruschetta. And every dessert's baked in-house. Cheesecake's made in-house. We have a bread pudding that we put our pretzels in there. So it's all about, being smart. Wise chef once told me if you bring an ingredient, you have to use it at least 3 times. So not only we're trying to be as clever and agile as possible in the kitchen, but by doing so, it's easier to duplicate a fewer item at a higher level and keep that consistency really high than having too many moving parts. I do have a huge kitchen. I do have a lot of room. Honestly, I don't use all of it. So what's come down to it is we also we have a different approach to most restaurants. I have a high volume background. I definitely use the trick of the trade that I've learned along the way. I do more of a kitchen of assemblage, and that is I have some prep cook in the back. They will do certain stages, for example, making sauces and things like that. And the line would just assemble, heat up, or things like that. And all in the sake of working those ticket times. And, if I have a bus or two, I want to make sure I keep things under 20 minutes or less, preferably towards 10 if I can. And so everything's engineered for speed and quality. Pretzel and everything like that, we actually do the dough from, in scratch in-house with fresh yeast. So we let them proof overnight, shaped up raw in the cooler, so we control the fermentation, just like, doing beers, but that's with the bread. That's the culinary alternative. We do use our beer into our pretzel dough as well, by the way. But we control that. So every morning we'll bake them fresh, and my baker would do the batch for the next day. So we're always ready ahead of time, a day ahead. So if I sell too many pretzels that day, most likely he would be done doing the batch for tomorrow. So I would say, hey, do me 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 more trays before you go home today. Looks like we're going through a lot of pretzel. And it goes all the way to, I do have steaks. We're in the country here, and it's steak and potato country. It's all about comfort food. People want there, they drink beer, then they want to eat some great, some good, like they say, good eating. So for them, it has to be meat and potatoes and starches. And we've tried many things to be on the healthier side, but it doesn't really stick. They want what they want, and the guests visiting us is kind of dictating our menu to some extent. So having a butcher as well, we ground our own beef, we cut our own steak from the subprimal cuts. So I have appetizer that I use that, I don't like to say recycle because it doesn't sound good, but when you have a full, you know, large section of beef, you cannot use all of it on steaks. You're gonna have some trims. Well, with some of the trims, I'm able to turn that into, roast beef material, I would say, and I'm able to do like I do a New York roast beef for an appetizer that's called beef and brie. But any unusable part that are great part, great quality, is probably a filet mignon or ribeye or whatever a part of it. Also get to recycle in the burger or when we do chili and things like that. So everything's thought ahead of time. So it's all about that food cost, obviously, because if you open that gate, you have to have the knowledge. You have to be able to have no waste or as little as possible. And that is the ultimate challenge of running a scratch kitchen in a higher volume. So for us to be successful, we have to stick to a small menu. And like I mentioned, use it in many areas. And just be honest with yourself. It's that too much for us to handle? If it is, cut a few items. And people are not upset that there's not a Bible of a menu. They actually, as long as they enjoy what they're eating and having a great time in beer, they're actually super happy. And you know what? You're creating a challenge. So we created a challenge here: who has the best burger in town, the best Reuben in town, and so all this kind of friendly competition that comes up, also by limiting the menu. But yeah, that's kind of what we do. And then the last touch is we do weddings and things and large events. We have buyouts for 300 people, 400 people, and I will use my current ingredients. Yeah, I'll buy a few exclusive options, but I'm able to use the current ingredients to turn into a more upper scale dining experience. So, like I say, we have a lot of flexing muscle. By doing so, we've been super, super successful. So, knock on wood.
Hey, question for you guys, totally random. I was at my wife's brewery yesterday. Are you starting to get invitations as a business to weddings? Have you seen this?
Yes, we market that. We market
No,
weddings.
wait, are you asking like the business itself is getting invited to a wedding?
Yes, it's
Not.
totally. Yeah, I just saw this. So apparently this has happened a number of times at Caboose, which is my wife's place. It's regulars, and they're saying, "Come to our wedding." I think the subtext is send us some beer.
Oh,
But anyway, yeah, I just saw this yesterday. I was like, "What is this?" And they're like, "Yeah,
Great.
we've started these." So apparently, hosting weddings, which they've done plenty of, but now they're starting to get invitations. I'm like, okay, well, you can now. The nice thing is, and you guys maybe will see this. Well, go plug it into GoTab and see how many times they've been here. And if you see that they're a regular, then of course, figure out how to get them a case of beer. But if they're not, then of course, ignore the invitation.
Can't fault them. Can't fault them for shooting their shot.
No, absolutely. I was like, it depends on what your spend is. We'll send you some beer.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Anyway, that was a new one yesterday.
Philippe, I have a question for you on that.
yeah.
So I totally agree with this simplified, straightforward menu. We've done a lot of that over the last year and a half of being open at our new location, and every time we've been nervous about cutting a handful of items that are inefficient or just not exactly performing as well as we would like. By the time we do it, we always regret we didn't do it sooner, because it just seems to go over very well. And hey, we don't have this mac and cheese thing anymore, and now people are ordering twice as much pizza, which is a better margin item for us. So it's always been to our advantage. Where we struggle is staffing in the kitchen, with retention of high quality staff to be able to do things from scratch. And so we end up not being able to do as much from scratch as we would like, because of that kitchen staffing issue in particular. It's always been a revolving door in this industry, unfortunately. And I mean, we tried to get out ahead of that as best we can with, offering very competitive pay as well as full-time benefits for anybody over 30 hours. So we're above average in the industry in pay and benefits. and we still can't retain the quality of individuals that we need in the back of house. Not as bad on the front of house, to be honest. And I'm just curious, how do you guys retain high quality staff to be able to be a scratch kitchen? Because we cannot.
Well, number one, that's also another $1 million question. So the way we do things, first of all, myself I'm the executive chef for the brand. I developed both of my sous chefs. So I have a chef de cuisine and a sous chef. So they're all trained to do all the above. Okay. So they're there. What I do is I divide and conquer. I would have one of the chefs focusing on the line, and that's his team, so to speak. And the other chef that would open focuses on production. So they have that support and that leadership figure next to each other, just like Braveheart, with Mel Gibson leading the charge. That's kind of the idea. Team member love that. They love to have a leader side by side because that shows that they care. That shows that they're all in together. Other than that, obviously you have to balance the workload on an individual. You have to be realistic on what does that look like? My solution is I would have a salary chef given a little hour to push if I need to during the holidays, because sometimes you just can't hire one or two players just for a month, and then you don't have the hours to sustain that. So you're going to have to flex that. You get a little overtime here and there, but financially it's a lot cheaper, and the team would enjoy that. And then on the other end, you kind of have to, the team that you have in place, you have to analyze their skill set. For me, the grand majority of my line cooks, they're from fast food environment flipping burgers. So if I put anything a little fancier, they only do one step. So I control what they assemble. The more skillful individual will probably be the prep cook that did all the things. So you have to use, you have to do the production side to keep a consistency in quality and the knowledge piece. So you only have to retain one or two, a few higher level cooks. And then you can have, I would say, the rookies more on the line. It's kind of a reverse. Back in the day when we started in the kitchen is dish prep line. Now it's becoming a reverse because it's easier to find line cooks and it's hard to find prep cooks that are able to do a long prep list. And then what I get to do is there's very limited amount of line prep, so they get to help the prep cook that way. So I'm having everybody to have a community prep together. I have a big board with what we need to prep as a team today. Everybody does what's immediate to their station, and when they're done, they're supposed to jump in and help the others until we're all done. So I also promote, collaboration, team play all the way, all the time. But the other magic thing that I do for my team, because I get to get more things done with less people, I guarantee their hours. If I'm slow, I still get them 40 hours a week. I find something to do for them, and that's the guarantee. I don't always look at the labor on an hourly basis or on the, daily basis. I look at it more on the weekly basis labor, because I do probably 50 to 60% of my business on Saturday. So I'll crush labor and I'll be heavier on the, early on. But on the production side, you want to make sure you bulk up on prep before you go on your heavy day. Otherwise, there's no way you're going to make it. So it's kind of, you have to balance that. So I do a blend of all the above. I don't know if that makes sense to you. So you have to be the master puppeteer in a way, but you have to analyze every single step of the way. So that's what I do. So I guarantee my hours to my team, no matter what. When it's busy, they get a little OT. I get a little chef power. But I'll be honest, many places I've worked in or know of, there's a lack of involvement from the leadership. And that's the newer trend. You can't be a guy walking around with a clipboard anymore. It does not work in smaller teams. So that's kind of the way we've been doing it. And I'm not using my managers, I mean chefs, as labor saver by no mean. They're just doing team play things, very simple thing, at the same time as they're checking prep quality, and managing the kitchen at the same time. So
Awesome. Thanks.
yeah.
It's a hard thing to do. I think one thing you are, Philippe, is you're a food leader. And I think that's one of the things that the breweries wrestle with is it's hard to get, cooks and Sue and, other people in the kitchen motivated without someone like you to point at. Right. And so I think that's one of the challenges we see, and my wife had the same challenge. She had a very accomplished chef, and now she has sous chefs who run it, because they actually don't have an executive chef at the moment. So I think it's a common issue in the industry. I don't know if you have any thoughts to add at all to this, Kevin. Any?
Yeah, I mean, just quickly, I mean, in terms of our menu, I'd say we're kind of down the middle. We've got certainly the giant pretzel, and we've got flatbreads and wings and different salads and burgers and chicken sandwiches, buffalo chicken sandwich, mac and cheese, and although in bratwurst, kind of leaning into the German heritage a little bit. And although we could have tried to do something that was over the top and different in many ways, our take was that we can provide those items, those type of menu items, and we can do them really, really well. So we've got a very accomplished chef in the kitchen. The request is, look, if we're going to have a burger, a cheeseburger, let's make it one of the best damn cheeseburgers you're going to find in this market. Fries, all the way down to the fries. We have people that come back just for the fries, believe it or not. So, so our approach initially was, look, a lot of people are coming here for the brewery, and we're providing food, not just to check the box, but providing food so that they enhance their experience, and they'll stay longer. Obviously, if people need to eat, they'll go somewhere else. But when they're eating, let's surprise them. Let's people have a low expectation oftentimes when you go to a place like a brewery and you're checking a box with food, and then you eat our food and you're like, damn, that is good. And so we take a lot of pride in that. The other thing we do, we mix it up. We have a killer brunch with a fun Bloody Mary and specials, and just kind of creating a party. But even that brunch menu is like, we've got a giant cinnamon roll. It's kind of an Instagrammable thing that people really dig. But the other thing we do, and I'll just add real quick, in terms of back of the house and staff, I mean, it's a very competitive market here in North Texas. We do compensate our back of the house really well, considering. But the exchange is, we expect a good ROI on that. So just across the board, from production, front of house, marketing, sales, our culture really is built so that there's a certain type of individual that will thrive in our culture: positivity, results oriented, good people, no negative attitudes. You don't fit our culture, you're just going to find yourself out of that culture. That extends to the back of our house. The other thing that we do with all of our special events, St. Patty's Day, we got a Mardi Gras coming up. We'll do summer things. We do a summer luau, all of these different things to drive traffic. We also do special food items for that. And so it gives our back of the house team the ability to, when they're doing burgers and flatbreads and stuff all day long, to take some time to really get creative. Much like, with our brew team, we've got a pilot system just like everyone else does. And, we're all artisans at the end of the day. And so, where our brew team are being artistic and creating new beers for us to pilot and put on the tap wall and see if it becomes a permanent menu item, or permanent placement in the market. Same thing with our kitchen team. We task them, whether it's for special events or private events that we've got coming up, flex your artistic muscle and let's see what you got. And so it's that level of engagement and team-based kind of philosophy that really kind of brings it all the way home to the guest experience.
Yeah, you remind me of, by the way, my wife's brewery does a brisk brunch as well. And I fought so hard to get a fresh donut on the menu. And guess what? It sells like freaking crazy. I'm like, just a fresh donut that's made to order. It's incredible. But boy, sometimes getting people to do, things that sound like out of the box can be hard. When the cooks are like, that's gonna be a pain. I got to clean out the fryer and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, but the market wants it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So it can be good to give them that opportunity. It can also be challenged to get them to stretch, in my experience. So.
Yeah. Now we saw that with our chicken wings. We didn't start out with chicken wings, but beer, chicken wings, football. Like we're like, we got to do it. And I wouldn't say there was pushback, but it's just like, chicken wings. And then of course, when we had it, put it on the menu, they take up one of our best sellers.
Great.
But
Cool. Yeah.
the key is if we're going to do chicken wings, we got 4 different flavors. They got to be phenomenal, And so that to me is if you're asking your kitchen staff to do something that's not as exciting, you can do something that's quote unquote not exciting, but do it really, really well. And that jazzes our team a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the over delivery on expectations, right? We're basically a mom and pop Dave and Buster's at our location with the number of things that we have going on. And so people tend to come hang out with us because we have so many different entertainment options. It's food and beverage which is really something that's happening in our industry right now. And so that's what we've done, I think, as well, is embodied exactly what you're describing, where I want the food to be a surprise. I want them to expect Dave and Buster's all the way through. And instead we over deliver on the service model. We over deliver on the food quality, consistency, and timing of it. So it's like, holy crap, this place I could just come here for lunch. I don't have to play arcades. This burger is ridiculous.
That's
and having a smaller amount. No, go ahead.
Oh, no. I think the measure of the food is when people come back there just to eat. Right?
Yep.
Clearly, I'm not going to have any beers. I really want that burger, right? And
yeah,
so,
we have enough shiny stuff going on that we don't necessarily need to try to make our mark, on the marketing side as like this is the destination for food. But when they come in for a private event and our team has had the ability to get creative for that private event menu off the normal beaten path of just flipping burgers, or somebody comes in for a birthday party or gathering or whatever, which is a lot of what we do. I want them to be blown away by the quality of the food and beverage. So then that's the reason they end up coming back, in addition to the fun activities that we have going on.
Right.
Hey, sorry, Tim. Morgan, I want to piggyback on something you mentioned earlier, that you wanted to simplify the menu a little bit sometimes. So I found something that works really well for us. When I look at my P mix and I see what sells, what doesn't sell, we all do that as an operator. When I have an item that's pretty strong, but it's not consistent, but sometimes it does very well, those are probably the best candidate to turn into a feature. So you can bring it back as a feature every now and then, and you can market that and get those guys that the crowd that really wants that dish. I do a lot of that. I had to do a lot of that on a few dishes that just all year round they were not doing so well, only in that season, like the chili. That's a hunting season, winter month feature, but during the summer month, not so much. So that's kind of we kind of play with that a little bit. So just want to bring that up.
Yeah, definitely.
Good point. I know we got started a little late, but I do want to make sure we get to one last question before we wrap. So obviously GoTab's a tech company. We do try to facilitate people. Just to be clear, we think people are the bread. I mean, that is the heart of hospitality, right? But what we do try to do with tech is enable people. Is there any new tech in the industry, GoTab or otherwise, that you guys think is compelling or interesting? And this is a total surprise question, by the way. So anything that you're interested, you're seeing that you think is going to have an impact on the guest experience? And the answer could be no, too. So any thoughts? I know Philippe's using the handhelds, and we introduced those last year. Those have been a big hit for us, but I don't know what or where. Do you have any thoughts around kiosk, out of curiosity? Anybody here? We are seeing a big uptick in kiosk. I don't think it would match Philippe's stuff.
I think it depends on your volume.
Yeah.
I think if you put kiosk, I would be more I would agree for smaller venue a kiosk maybe. I think it's more flexible to have the QR codes. Otherwise, you have to have a lot of kiosks, and that could be expensive. Handheld, you mentioned it. That's speeding the server times two. So you have your server make more money. They plug in the order at the table, boom, boom, boom. They don't have to go back to a terminal and plug it in. That's why we use that, so we can actually have less server on staff and make it more worth their while to retain staffing as well. But so far, I mean, the capability that GoTab provides us, because we're a very weird Disney World of beer. It's on point right now. I mean, every time there's something new comes up, I look at it, I see if it would fit our model, and I would say bring out some innovation as you go through, and we'll check it out. But so far, everything's great. Really love it.
I just demoed, by the way, off the record. Well, on the record actually. I did just demo the new inventory stuff we're rolling out, which is really cool, and I can't wait to show you guys to somebody. It was essentially the ability to deplete inventory with modifiers, not using some of the. For those that are familiar, there's a bulk variance which we're actually going to get rid of, and there's a new way to do it that's much more elegant. And it has a ton of other applications. So like dynamic routing based on modifiers and some all kinds of cool stuff, like different cook times based on modifiers as well. So there's some really neat stuff coming out here within the next month that I'm sure you'll be interested in as well. Anybody else have any tech GoTab?
Yeah, so for us on the technology side, I mean, you know, we live obviously in a very digital world where there's a lot of tools available to us on the marketing side. And so, you know, for any, you know, obviously when we have when you have a brewery and a tap room, obviously it's a conduit to additional revenues. But it's also a marketing platform, right? I mean, you get people in your door and they experience not only the product, but the vibe, the people, the visual aspects. We do a lot of marketing on our screens. We have a captive audience. And so the amount of events that we do, whether it's ticketed or not, and all the way down to our cycling team and yoga to, you know, St. Patty's Day or whatever we're doing, Taylor Swift brunch, which we've got coming up. People are going nuts about. I don't get it, but you know, we'll do it. But you know, we use our screens, our TV screens, as marketing vehicles. You know, game on one screen, and then you know, upcoming events on the other. And so for us, it's, you know, we have a really cool audio and video matrix. So we've got, you know, a number of screens throughout the facility. This isn't new rocket science stuff, but just being able to leverage it intelligently. So whatever game is on, we can throw it on any screen. If someone does a full buyout and they have a presentation or a logo, we can throw it on any screen. Whatever the audio source is, Pandora, Bluetooth, or a live band that'll plug into our XLR, we can throw it on any room and any speaker. All of those things are easy to do if you set it up right, but it really, really enhances the guest experience. Certainly using screens as directional signs, private event space signs. We even wheel around a TV on a cart. If someone has a birthday party, we'll set it right next to their table in a sign that says "Happy Birthday," or give them the ability to run a slideshow of their own on it. Just those little touches there. But outside of that, you know, being able to capture your customer data and then target them, whether we're bringing people in through social media, through retargeting or other programs to get them in-house, or capturing them in our POS GoTab and using that information to continue marketing to them, to bring them back. We're starting to do a lot more of the kind of if-then marketing, is like, you know, behavioral marketing, where someone clicks this or doesn't click this or clicks this after a certain time. What happens? What do they see? What offer do they get? So those kind of technologies really continue to grow traffic to us, and really it's just limitless what you can do out there. So as someone who spent his life mostly in marketing, really exciting stuff. And then the last component, real quick, really is we're all here talking about GoTab, but without the platform doing what it does, all the way from the user experience to our staff being able to ring people in on the POS, or having different stations, KDS stations, whether that's kitchen or behind the bar, we've been able to kind of really slice and dice, if you will, the technology to really work with our workflow. And, when we decided to do this, we decided, as I said early on, to have this specific model, if we could even pull it off. But what is most critical to that is to have your POS be able to handle that. And so I would say, hats off to GoTab. It's really, it's a non-issue to us for the most part, and that's a good thing, because we know it works. We know, we can build around focusing on service and not worrying about our POS giving us issues. And it's an opportunity when folks are try to use the QR, and every now and then they just don't like it. They may get one order, and we'll talk to them. It's like, yeah, I don't want it. Can I order any other way? Just the ability just to say, yeah, transfer it to the counter, and you're done. So that ability to be agile with your POS is absolutely imperative. And so we obviously are here because we found that with GoTab, and so that's been a big part of our success.
Well, thanks, Kevin. Didn't know I was setting you up for a plug, but I'll take it.
Hey, you know me well enough. If things are working, you'll hear about it. And if it's not, you'll hear about it too.
That's fine. That's fine. We're here. Okay. I know we're out of time, but Morgan, I'd love to hear any pile-on or thoughts or other direction. Anything else?
Yeah. What on the technology side, Kevin hit a lot of my points there. The versatility, being able to customize it to your individualized workflow. The print routing. I know some of the globally adjusted modifiers and things that are coming, and the if this then that modifiers that are coming this year are going to be wonderfully helpful to kind of further that push. And also just any innovations that you're looking at, thinking about what other systems it could replace or take off of our plate. We are presented with so many technological solutions for the problems that our businesses encounter on a day-to-day basis, from a marketing front, from a digital signage front, which is vastly important. And my big goal right now is how do we shrink that tech stack a little bit? How do I, even if a system is 70, 80% as effective as the standalone product that's dedicated to it, if I can eliminate another login, if I can eliminate looking in another place, updating information in another place, and streamline that, all the way to making sure that our POS menu is on our website, so that the website is always up to date. Because the moment we 86 something in-house, it 86s from our web menu, 86s from online. And so really our big push, hi sweetheart, I'm on a call. Really our big push is to try to streamline that. And I think that, you guys have your toe in the water with a few things. And so I'm excited to see what else you can do in that effort. Could you bring a digital signage partner in so that we can manage that through the same scheduling, that we do for restaurant menus and stuff? And so that's been our big push. And Kevin, I can't emphasize enough how important it's been for us on the digital signage side, especially those directionals, with the number of private events that we have, is really leaning on our screens in the building to be able to tell people where they need to go, where they're allowed to go today based on the private events schedule, and managing those guest expectations beyond just the verbal spoken word. And oftentimes it helps our team as well, because maybe they were 10 minutes late and they didn't get there for the huddle right before their shift started, and they can turn around and look at the relevant information on the screen behind them and better assist guests in the restaurant. So that's been cool too.
Cool. Well, that's all we have for today. We're out of time, but I'm sure we will be discussing more in the future, and obviously we're always looking for feedback. So I appreciate everybody attending on this crazy weather day, and even kids at home. And then we look forward to future discussions with all of you. So thanks everybody who attended, and thank you all for participating.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Cheers. Thanks everybody.
Yeah. Bye.